Hello! Today, I'll tell you a story about a lovely girl who wore a little Red Riding Hood. One day, when she was on her way to visit her grandmother, she met a big, bad wolf. What will happen to the little girl? Let's read on to find out the answer. Hi everyone, I'm Little Red Riding Hood. I live with my mother in a small house on the edge of the forest. Little Red Riding Hood's mother. Grandmother.
I'm a super hunter. I love to hunt dangerous animals to protect everyone.
I'm the wolf. I live in the forest and love to eat young kids who walk alone.
Once upon a time, there was such a sweet, lovely girl that everyone loved her. She often wore a red riding hood everywhere she went. So, the people in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood. I love this Red Riding Hood very much. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother asked her to bring a cake and a bottle of wine to her grandmother, who was very ill. Grandmother is very ill. My dear, bring this cake and bottle of wine to her to help her get well. Yes, Mom. Before Little Red Riding Hood set off, her mother reminded her to always stay on the main path and mind her manners. The little girl obeyed her mother and set off. Remember, don't talk to strangers and don't go off the road. When you meet and talk to your grandmother, you should be very respectful. I will, Mom. Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother lived in a small cottage in the forest. On her way, she met a wolf who asked her,
Hello, Little Red Riding Hood. Where are you going?
The little girl honestly answered that she was on her way to visit her grandmother. Her cottage was under 3 large oak trees, and there were many chestnut trees there.
Where's your grandmother's cottage, Little Red Riding Hood?
My grandmother's cottage is in the forest, under 3 large oak trees. In his mind, the wicked wolf made an evil plan to eat both Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. Soon, he lured her into picking flowers and playing with butterflies in the forest. Little Red Riding Hood was very excited when she saw them. So, she went off of the road and enjoyed picking the beautiful flowers. Pretty butterfly, wait for me. I'm a dragonfly. Would you like to fly high like me? In the meantime, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's cottage, stepped inside, and ate her up. Then he put on her clothes to disguise himself as the ill grandmother and lay on her bed.
I'm Little Red Riding Hood. Open the door for me and let me in, please. I'll snack on this old woman. Ha 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 ha.
When Little Red Riding Hood reached the cottage, she saw the door open. Then she went to the bed, but felt that her grandmother looked different. Grandmother, I'm Little Red Riding Hood. How strange it is. Why is the door open? Little Red Riding Hood asked, Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have.
All the better to hear your sweet voice, my dear.
Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have.
All the better to see your lovely face, sweet love.
Oh, grandmother, what big hands you have.
All the better to hug you more tightly.
My goodness, What big teeth you have!
All the better to eat you with!
The wolf immediately jumped out of the bed, pounced on the little girl, and swallowed her whole. My goodness! Why is your mouth so big?
To eat you up!
The wolf ate so much that his stomach was completely full. He climbed back into bed, fell asleep, and snored very loudly. At that very moment, a hunter was passing by the grandmother's cottage. He thought that the wolf must have eaten the poor woman. So, he took a pair of scissors and cut open the wolf's stomach. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother jumped out, alive and unharmed.
You're here, wicked wolf.
Then, Little Red Riding Hood filled the wolf's stomach with large stones. When he woke up and tried to run away, the stones were so heavy that he fell down dead.
Huh, let's see if you can run away with that stomach.
It serves you right, wicked wolf. The three of them were very happy. The hunter took the wolf's fur. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine that Little Red Riding Hood had brought. She then felt better. From now on, I will obey Mother. I will never leave the road and run off into the forest by myself. Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, from now on, I will obey Mother. I will never leave the road and run off into the forest by myself. That's the end of the story, Little Red Riding Hood. What lessons can you learn from this story? Firstly, you should always obey your mother and shouldn't go out alone, especially to deserted places. Secondly, you should be polite to your elders. Thirdly, you should never talk to strangers when your parents tell you not to. This story is really interesting and helpful, isn't it? Goodbye, and see you again soon. Hello! You're playing an interactive story app by BH Media. In the middle of a forest, there was a beautiful girl named Rapunzel, who was locked in a high tower by a wicked witch. One day, a prince appeared and fell madly in love with her. Let's read the fairy tale Rapunzel and join the prince to save this lovely girl. Once upon a time, there were a man and a woman who had always wished for a child. The window at the back of their house overlooked a beautiful garden full of the finest flowers and herbs. However, no one dared to go into it because it belonged to a witch named Gothel. Wow, what a beautiful garden! One day, when the wife was standing by the window, she saw a fresh and green herb in the garden. She wanted to eat some of this herb. It was her greatest desire, which increased every day. Then she fell ill. The man loved his wife very much, so he decided to go into the garden and bring her some of the herb. When it was getting dark, the husband climbed over the wall into the garden and grabbed a handful of the herb. He took it to his wife, who ate it happily.
Here is that herb that you want to eat. Enjoy.
This herb is what I need. Oh, it's so tasty. The following day, The wife wanted to eat this herb again and begged her husband to take it to her. So the man set out once more.
How dare you
But
climb over into
when
my
he had
garden
climbed over the wall,
and
he
steal
saw the
my
witch
herb?
standing before him. The witch became very angry and blustered at the man. Terribly afraid, he said,
Please forgive me. I had to have this herb. My wife saw it in your garden, and she will die if she doesn't eat it.
Then the witch said, "You can take some of this herb, but only under one condition. You must give me your child after it's born. I'll care for it like a mother." In his fear, the man agreed to everything.
What nerve you have! How dare you climb over into my garden like a thief and steal my herb!
Please, please, forgive me. My wife will die if she doesn't eat this herb.
When the wife gave birth, the witch
I'll name
appeared
her
and
Rapunzel.
took the baby
Rapunzel.
away, though the poor couple cried and pleaded with her. Then the witch gave the child the name of Rapunzel.
My goodness, please, please don't take my baby away.
No, give her back to me! Give her back to me! Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child in the world. When she was 12 years old, the witch locked her in a tower in a forest. The tower had neither a door nor a stairway, but only a window at the top. When the witch wanted to enter the tower, she stood below and called out, "Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let down your hair!" You know, Rapunzel had beautiful, long hair that shone like gold. When she heard Gothel's voice, Rapunzel let her braided hair fall down to the ground, and the witch would climb up by it.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let down your hair!
One day, after a few years, a prince rode through the forest and passed by the tower. He heard a voice singing so beautifully from the tower that he stood still and listened. The prince wanted to enter the tower, but he found no door. So he returned home. But he fell in love with that voice so deeply that he went out into the forest every day and listened to it. One time, when the prince was standing behind an old tree, he saw the witch come up. Then he saw how Rapunzel let down her long hair and how the witch climbed up by it and went into her.
Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let down your hair!
Is that braided hair the ladder into the tower? I'll try climbing it. The next day, when it began to grow dark, the prince went to the tower and called out, "Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Let down your hair!" Immediately the hair fell down and he climbed up. When she saw him, Rapunzel was frightened, for she had never seen a man before. But the prince began speaking so kindly to her and told her how her singing had entered into his heart and how he wished to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear and the prince proposed to her. She thought to herself, "I certainly like him much better than old Mother Gothel." So she said yes. And they were married. Every time the prince came, he brought a bit of silk with him, so that Rapunzel could weave a ladder with it. When the ladder was finished, they would climb down and run away.
Don't be afraid, please. I've fallen deeply in love with your singing. I just wanted to see you.
The witch knew nothing of all this. until once Rapunzel said to her, "Mother Gothel, how is it that you climb up here so slowly, whereas the prince is with me in a moment?"
At this, the witch flew into a rage and cried, "You godless child! I thought I had hidden you from the whole world, and yet you've cheated me!"
The witch grabbed Rapunzel's beautiful hair and snip-snap cut it off. The lovely braids lay on the ground. She was so angry that she took Rapunzel into a desert place where she had to live in misery.
Mother Gothel, please, please forgive me. I promise not to cheat you again.
How dare you cheat me? Let's see if you can meet your prince without your long hair.
Then the witch came back to the tower and tied the cut-off hair to the hook of the window. When the prince came and called out as usual, she let the hair down. He climbed up, but instead of his beloved Rapunzel, he found the witch looking at him with wicked eyes. She cried mockingly,
"Aha! You came for your darling! But the sweet bird sits no longer in the nest and sings no more. And you, I will make sure you won't see her again."
In his despair, the prince fell down from the tower. He became blind, for the thorns into which he fell pierced his eyes.
Rapunzel, I'm here with you.
Oh! Ha ha ha! The cat got that bird, and you will be blind. Ah!
From then on, the prince wandered about in the forest, eating nothing but roots and berries, and doing nothing but weeping over the loss of his dearest Rapunzel. Ah, strawberries! Rapunzel, where are you? The prince wandered about and reached the desert place where Rapunzel lived with her twins,
I worried about you
a boy
so much.
and a girl. When he approached, Rapunzel recognized him. She ran towards him, fell into his arms, and wept. Amazingly, when her tears touched his eyes, they became clear, and he could see again. The prince took Rapunzel and their kids to his kingdom. They were joyfully received and lived happily ever after. That's the end of the story, Rapunzel. Kids, if you have conviction, energy, and a true love, you can change your life and stay away from bad things. I hope you will always keep your dedication to get over all the challenges and difficulties in your life. Goodbye, and see you again.
My goodness, I can see again. Thank you so much, Rapunzel.
Look,
Mom!
he's our
Dad!
father.
Hello, kids! You are watching an interactive story app by BH Media. The cat is a beautiful animal, isn't it? It was said that a smart cat helped his poor master become a rich marquis and even marry a beautiful princess. Let's make friends with this special cat through the Grimm Brothers fairy tale, Puss in Boots. Once upon a time, there lived a poor miller who, when he died, left nothing more for his 3 sons than his mill, his donkey, and his cat. The oldest son quickly took the mill, the second the donkey, and the youngest was left with the cat. I'm the oldest, I get the mill. I get the donkey.
Meow meow.
Oh,
Meow.
but The youngest was quite unhappy. The oldest has the mill to mill flour, and the second has the donkey to carry goods. But what can I do with that poor cat? He muttered to himself. Suddenly, the cat stood up and said to him with a serious tone, "Do not worry yourself, my good master. Give me a big bag and have a pair of boots made for me, and then you will see that I am not as bad an inheritance as you imagine." The youngest was very surprised when he heard this. However, he had often seen the cat play many lever tricks to catch rats and mice, so he agreed. Poor me. All I can do is make myself a muff from his skin, but then I must die of hunger.
Meow meow.
Give me a big bag and have a pair of boots made for me. I'll help you change your life. Oh, you can speak? When the pair of boots was made, the cat booted himself. He then put barley into his bag and threw it over his shoulder. He stepped out on 2 legs and headed to the forest. The cat went to the dense forest, where there was a great many rabbits. He left the top of his bag wide open, held the string, and hid himself in a sheltered spot. After a while, young rabbits started coming near the bag and eating the barley. Some foolish rabbits jumped into his bag. The cat immediately drew the string and caught all of them. Gotcha! The cat then went straight to the king's palace. Making a low bow, he said to the king, "I have brought you, sir, rabbits, which my noble lord, the Marquis of Carabas, has asked me to present to your majesty from him." In truth, the Marquis of Carabas was the title that the clever cat gave his poor master. The king was pleased with the gift. The cat went to the forest the next day. In this manner, he presented him with rare animals for months. He was given a lot of gold and silver, which he then brought to his master. "I have brought you, sir, rabbits, which my noble lord, the Marquis of Carabas, has asked me to present to your majesty from him." "Good, very good. Hey, talking cat, tell your master that I thank him." "Thank you, your majesty." One day, the cat heard that the king and his beautiful daughter were going out. He ran home and said to his master, "If you follow my advice, you will live a much more comfortable life. All you have to do is go and bathe yourself in the river at the place I show you. Then leave the rest to me." Because he already trusted him, the youngest son did what the cat advised, without knowing why. A handsome guy! A handsome guy!
There's an intruder! There's an intruder! Rah!
Meow meow.
"Master, it's urgent. If you want to change your life, follow me and go to the river." Okay. Right now? While the youngest was bathing, the king's coach passed by, and the cat began to cry out, "Help! Help!" The king recognized him, so he stopped immediately. The cat told the king that while his master was bathing, a thief stole his clothes. In truth, the cat had hidden the clothes under a large stone. The king immediately ordered his officers to fetch the best suit for the Lord Marquis of Carabas. When the youngest was dressed in the fine clothes, He looked like a real marquis. The king then allowed him to get into the coach and take a ride with them. The princess liked him at first sight. Your Majesty, here is my lord, the Marquis of Carabas. I am the Marquis of Carabas. It is my great pleasure to meet you and your daughter. Wow! Is this the master of that special cat? In the meantime, the cat ran on ahead of the carriage and reached a green meadow where farmers were cutting the grass. He said to them, My good fellows, if you do not tell the king that the meadow you are mowing belongs to my lord Marquis of Carabas, you will be punished. Frightened by his strange and impressive appearance, when the king drove by and asked them who owned the meadow, the farmers answered all together, just as the cat had ordered them. My good fellows, if you do not tell the king that the meadow you are mowing belongs to my lord Marquis of Carabas, you will be punished. Tell me, who does this meadow belong to? Your Majesty, it belongs to my lord, Marquis of Carabas. The cat still ran ahead and reached a vast field of barley, where there were more farmers busy at work. He said to them, Good people, if you do not tell the king that this field of barley belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, you will be punished. The cat's threats had scared the farmers, so they followed what he said. The king was astonished by the vast estates of the Lord Marquis of Carabas. He was very pleased. If you do not tell the king that this field of barley belongs to the Lord Marquis of Carabas, you will be punished. Who does this field of barley belong to? It belongs to the Lord Marquis of Carabas, Your Majesty.
The cat came at last to a huge castle, the lord of which was a wicked ogre with a lot of magic. He owned the vast meadow and barley field the cat had just passed by. The cat paid his respects to him and said in a serious voice, I have been told that you can change yourself into any animal you want. You can, for example, change yourself into a lion or an elephant. I can. It's an easy thing for me. Watch this, said the ogre very quickly, and he instantly changed into a lion. The master cat was very terrified. What is your business here, imp? I have heard about you for a long time, so now I expect to see your power to change yourself into any creature you like. Oh, not a big deal. Keep your eyes open. That's amazing. Do you know how wonderful I am? That's amazing. After a while, the ogre returned to his natural form. The cat reassured himself and said to the ogre, Awesome, but I wonder if you have the power to change yourself into a little animal, like a mouse. That must be impossible. Impossible? Oh, as easy as pie. You will see, cried the ogre. And in a moment, he changed himself into a mouse and began to run about the floor. Immediately, the cat fell upon him and ate him up. So, the wicked ogre was gone.
Great, but I can't believe that you can change yourself into the smallest of animals. For example, a rat or a mouse. That's quite impossible.
Impossible? That's very easy. You will see. Stupid ogre. By this time, the king had arrived at the castle. The cat ran to the gate and said, "Welcome, your majesty, to the castle of the Marquis of Carabas." Entering the stately castle, the king was overwhelmed by bright rooms full of treasures. He was very pleased, and his daughter, the beautiful princess, had fallen madly in love with the youngest. The king said,
It will be your own fault, my lord Marquis, if you do not become my son-in-law.
Of course, the youngest was overjoyed to accept the honor that His Majesty conferred upon him. The two were married that very same day, and they lived happily with the cat forever and ever. That's the end of the story. Do you see that our cat is very wise and clever? Have you ever had your own pet? I hope you will have lovely, smart, and loyal friends like this Master Cat. Goodbye, and see you next time. That's the end of the story. Goodbye.